Peter Oborne joins me now. Peter, I was saying earlier that I am not myself a supporter of Imran Khan and his party, but I know a coup when I see one. And I see that you wrote much the same earlier today, at least I read it earlier today. Give us the benefit of your argument, please.
Certainly I will, because I think that this has been gravely unreported in the British press. So Imran Khan was arrested yesterday, as you know, by paramilitary forces. Some people, some quite respectable advisors are saying it's more like a kidnapping than an arrest, but he was arrested. And in the time that has gone past, and Imran, of course, is the leader of the PTI, which is the main opposition party in Pakistan, and several very senior members of the PTI have also been arrested. And from reports, it's quite hard because internet's being stopped. You know, there's a real block on press reporting now in Pakistan. It looks like they're wrapping up a lot of the members. So this is an anti-democratic assault on the, and it's coming just 4 months ahead of a general election, which has got to be held under Pakistan law by the end of 2023. And Imran Khan is by far and away the most popular politician in the country, in Pakistan. So it's a very troubling event, and there's been awful violence, protests. The Pakistan people appear to be turning on the army. There's horrible footage of them going into, you know, the sort of senior military places in Lahore and elsewhere. And so it's a troubling time.
Troubling indeed, not least because how vastly populous Pakistan is, its geostrategic position in the world, its possession of nuclear weapons, and a combustible mass of Pakistani diaspora in many countries in the world, including our own. And yet Rishi Sunak declared today that he had nothing to say about all of this, that it was an internal matter for Pakistan. What did you think of that?
Well, it's an extraordinary statement from the British Prime Minister. As you say, Pakistan has well over 200 million people. The British Pakistani population, people of Pakistan heritage, I think well over 2 million. And many of them go back and forth. They make a magnificent contribution in Britain. I know lots of them personally. Let's note, first of all, that Mr. Sunak and indeed James Cleverley, the Foreign Secretary, have no problems at all making commentaries on the internal operations of foreign countries. They're very free with their opinions of whatever's going on in Syria or Iran or Russia, anybody who's deemed to be an enemy of the British state. On the other hand, the silence on what is going on in Pakistan is quite extraordinary from the British government for a number of reasons. First of all, we claim to support democracy and freedom, and this is clearly an attack on democracy. Mr. Khan, whatever you think of him as Prime Minister of Pakistan when he's straight. He's not corrupt. I mean, that's certainly not compared to the mass of the ordinary Pakistan politicians. And these charges look like they're trumped up. You would expect James Cleverley, at the very least, to have summoned the Pakistan ambassador and given him a dressing gown, saying, "What's going on? This is an attack. This is an attack on basic democracy, and Britain supports democracy." All the more so because, and I dare say quite a few of them are listening to your program, George, the British Pakistani diaspora population will be looking for that kind of leadership, that kind of statement that Britain is actually prepared to stand up for the values which we claim to believe in.
There's another reason why it's extraordinary, Peter. The organisers of it all are living in Mayfair. with their ill-gotten gains in bricks and mortar in some of the finest streets in our capital. The British police are actually on 24/7 security duties outside these palatial apartments in Mayfair. So the former Prime Minister, whose brother is now the Prime Minister, is currently in London. In fact, if I'm not wrong, even the current Prime Minister is visiting his brother in London, if I'm not wrong, right now. They are members of the Commonwealth. It's our Commonwealth. Our king is the head of that Commonwealth. But we've got nothing to say about it. We never stop talking about events in Iran, as you say, or Mr. Navalny in Moscow, or other internal affairs of other countries. But in these extraordinary circumstances, we have nothing to say to defend the life of Imran Khan.
It depresses me beyond measure. And let's just look into the mind of the Foreign Secretary, James Cleverley. Now, James Cleverley was asleep at the wheel when the Sudan tragedy happened. I mean, he seems to have been, even that every dog that barked knew that something was about to happen in Khartoum, but not apparently Mr. Cleverley. The Foreign Office was caught on the hop. We had to rely on foreign countries to get out British citizens. Now, he's asleep at the wheel on this too, Mr. Cleverley and Mr. Sunak, fast asleep. Now, we got, I don't know how many British nationals there were in Sudan, maybe a few hundred. How many? I should dare say there's, as we speak, tens of thousands, and the country is descending into anarchy, according to the reports, which are coming out, because there's a huge suppression of press reporting, as you know, and of the internet. But and the British government seems to be clueless about this. It's not, and nor is it prepared to stand up and state that it believes in democracy. It's against the arrest of political opponents of the regime or the government in power. So it's morally we're all adrift, but also I think practically we're now adrift.
Now, the game would appear to be obvious, although I've been through this movie before, Peter, and it has sometimes ended in the death, the murder, judicial murder in one case, and extrajudicial in another. I have seen the murder of Pakistani leaders before, but let's avoid speculating about the worst case. The best case is that they're trying to put him out of these elections, maybe even outlaw his party from standing in those elections. That's a recipe for civil war, isn't it?
It's beginning to, look like something very serious may happen. You are right. You said you weren't a supporter of PTI, but one of Mr. Khan's party, but one of the welcome things about it, I think, was that it challenged this sort of dynastic rule. The Sharifs and the Bhuttos had been really running the country politically for 40 years or 40 years. And these two dynastic parties, the PPP in the case of the Bhutto dynasty and the Sharifs MLN, it had been sclerotic, and also he was challenging, the visceral endemic corruption, which has been a real sort of problem for Pakistan, as many other countries, by the way, so I think he was a very fresh voice and fresh figure from outside conventional power politics, and if you stop that, and he's also obtained mass support. He's fantastically popular at the moment in Pakistan, not just in a narrow elite group, but certainly among the urban middle class, but also mass support outside the cities. And to sort of try and stop him fighting the elections is certainly a recipe for autocracy, authoritarian rule. And you've seen, I think it frightens me what we appear to be seeing is these attacks on the army, which the army, like it or not, has been a symbol of stability and a force for stability in Pakistan ever since independence in 1947. And people have accepted that. So occasionally you have had dictators take power, normally backed by our American friends, but that has often been welcome. People have wanted to see law and order, and to see in the last 24 hours the mass, a lot of people turning against the army, which I believe is, basically we got military law now, according to reports, which in the across much of the Punjab, up in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, and apparently in Balochistan. I mean, it's a very, very frightening and dark moment, this, potentially.
Indeed so. And the idea of these absconders, these runaway Pakistani politicians, whether in London or back now in power in Islamabad, calling anybody corrupt when they are a byword for corruption. Whatever else you could say about Khan, he hasn't filled his own pockets. He may have made mistakes in his policies. Some of his international relationships with Russia, with China, I approve of, but could understand why some would not. But the idea that he is the corrupt one is the pot calling the kettle black to an extraordinary degree, isn't it?
Well, let's add one other thing, George. The war on terror, where you were a tremendous voice, I believe, for good, and speaking out against the abuses, human rights abuses, torture, extradition, drones, all of that, which was part of the George W. Bush war on terror and persisted with by Obama. Now, Imran Khan, and this is one of the problems I think he now faces, really established himself by fighting against extradition, the use of killing through drones, and he was a force for good during the war on terror, and it didn't endear him, I think you'll find, to the United States. And then, if you look at, I follow Pakistan politics quite closely, and his downfall seems to have followed the fall of Kabul, and it's documented. You've always got to be careful about what you say about Pakistan politics. There are so many different layers and different interpretations, but he seems to have been in conflict with the Americans about the consequences of Kabul. Americans always wanted to have overflights of Pakistan airspace for launching operations, and I think I'm right in saying that Imran Khan was opposed to that, and he was certainly very upset with the Americans for withholding funds which belonged to the Taliban, the new government in Afghanistan, and so he was not afraid, and this separated him from the run-of-the-mill Pakistan politicians. He was never afraid to criticize the United States and its policies. Now, whether that is what led to his removal, when he ceased to be prime minister, about a year ago now, after he lost the support of several of his MPs, about 30 of them, I think, from memory, and there was quite a lot of those close to Mr. Khan. I think that was, you could see the hands of the American embassy in Islamabad in that. I already can't. I'm not there. I wouldn't like to say, but you could. It's given the litany of interventions you've just listed, it's certainly not implausible.
Peter Oborne, as always, thank you for your wisdom on the mother of all talk shows. Peter Oborne, great English writer.